I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Business Renovator. Today, topic is helping small businesses, blue collar of nature, make a purposeful impact. My guest today is going to talk about that with me. So hang out with us to find out what we're going to talk about that's going to impact blue collar businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs in that space. And you know what? It's transferable. It might even work in professional services, but our focus, blue collar. So today, thank you for being here. If you're watching us live, much appreciated. If you're watching us on the replay, hashtag replay and let us know where you're watching us from. That would be great. And if you feel so compelled, perhaps share this out with your community as well. And one other ask is if you would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would help us get more viewers and get more eyeballs on the messages from the great guests I have on here, as I do again today. Kyle's going to join us here shortly. But before we get into the show, I'm going to do my shameless plug for what I do. So bear with me. Here we go. And you can get that free complimentary. Go to the website address you saw there, coachphil.ca. Up in the top right-hand corner, as you're looking at your screen, there's a button there. Click on it, and you'll be able to take the assessment. If you want to go a little bit deeper, want a complimentary coaching session to help you address some of the questions that have been identified, the answers, I'm happy to do that, but not necessary. Again, no credit card required. So let's get on with what we're here for today, blue collar conversation type thing. So Kyle Gillette helps small businesses, as I do, and he works with the owners to get most out of their time, their talent, and their team. He is an ICF certified coach, behavioral analyst, and creator of the Blue Shirt Leadership Framework. He helps his clients be self-aware, lead with accountability, use a growth mindset, and empower others. He is a business coach, a host of the Blue Shirt Leadership Podcast, an author, and he runs the Blue Shirt Business Community on Facebook. Before Blue Shirt Coaching, Kyle ran a successful personal training business, ran a pet resort, cool, he likes pets, and was director of a men's mentoring nonprofit group. So I'm going to just bring him up. Let's find out who he really is. That sounds pretty intriguing, though, doesn't it? Good day, Kyle. Welcome to the show, and thanks for fitting us into your crazy busy schedule.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for fitting me into your crazy busy schedule. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, that's great. So I should have dressed for the occasion. You did. You have a blue shirt on. I could have had a blue collar, but I have a black one. Anyway, so what's the best thing that's happened to you since, I don't know, last week or so?
Oh, you know what? I love that question because something miraculous happened to me. For 10 years, I had allergies to wheat, dairy, and corn, where if I ate that food, it felt like the next day or the next 3 to 5 days, I would feel like I was just in a bicycle accident where I smashed my body up against concrete or something, and I felt like trash. And I went and saw this lady, and through that and lots of prayer and lots of help from other people to get this thing out, I can eat whatever the heck I want, and I could finally drink beer again. So I'm happy. Not that I'm a big beer drinker, but it's hard to socialize with guys in the blue collar world if you're not willing to have a beer from time to time. So it worked out really well.
And nothing. Did you have to have anything amputated, or that's exciting?
Yes, very exciting. Yeah, no arms or fingers taken off. Just I couldn't believe it. The lady's like, "Oh, you'll be fine now. You can go ahead and eat dairy and meat. No big deal." And I'm like, "Do I need to wait a couple days, or is there anything I need to do?" She's like, "No, you can eat it." And so I did, and nothing happened. It's amazing. So I'm very grateful for that. So that's the last 2.5 weeks.
Oh, that's fantastic. Sounds like some magic happened for you. That is brilliant.
Yes.
I have friends and acquaintances that are suffering with well, how you described was not quite the same. It was almost the same. Whenever they have gluten
Yeah.
product, they crash and burn, and they can't do anything. They feel like their death is close.
Yeah, this lady says it has to do with vaccines and trauma and a couple other things. So it's a whole another topic and show even because it's fascinating. And but yeah, I'm very grateful for sure.
Well, that's good. Well, that is really good news, and thank you for stepping up, showing up, and celebrating with us a bit of a victory. That's awesome. Good for you. One of the things that was pointed out to me by a client of mine, we were having, gosh, it must have been about 6 or 7 years ago, and we used something that Brian Tracy introduced. When I first saw it, it's called the Diamond Map, and it's 4 areas: health and fitness, relationships, career, business is one of the other points, and then finance. So the idea is between 0 and 10 on any one of those axes. Where are you? Current reality, make a mark. Where would you like to be? So that's the thing. As coaches, we help our customers, our clients, our business owners work the gap. But what I liked about what Brian's talking about was the 4 areas. I'd seen wheels that have more spokes, but for busy entrepreneurs, it was almost too woo-woo.
Mhm.
Brian laser focused diamond map would make simplified it. What was brought to my attention by a client of mine who asked great questions. He says, "Do you think Brian put health and fitness at the bottom of the diamond map?" And I said, "Why do you ask that?" He says, "Well, without the health and fitness looked after, the rest doesn't matter."
Right. Foundational.
Yeah, isn't that true? So mental and physical um, health is a big part of life, and you start off our show with a really good example of that.
Yep.
So we didn't even premeditate that, boys and girls. It was just organic.
Well, I won't. I worked out on Monday yesterday too, but on Monday I did a bunch of pull-ups at a gym that I'm a part of, and this tendon right here and this one right here is so sore. It's so hard to fully extend my elbows. But yeah, I totally agree that you got to have that health foundation, both in your mindset and physically. I love that. I mean, and part of the work that I'm doing is definitely mindset work with my clients. So
Yeah.
I'm on board, Phil. I get it.
So let's explore the mindset work that you're doing with your clients, like from a 35,000 foot view, because we only have a few minutes today.
Yeah, sure. So I think the best way to talk about it is the blue framework is what I use. And if you picture it like a leadership house, the first part of it is be a self-aware leader, and that self-awareness is the foundation of your leadership house. Use or lead with accountability, and accountability is the nails that hold your leadership house together. Without that, it's going to fall. And accountability isn't about morality or anything like that. It's more about follow through and those types of things, making sure your team follows through, you follow through. And then the U is use a growth mindset. So growth would be the walls and the roof of your leadership house and everything and the stuff inside. As you live in your home over time, you remodel it and move furniture around. In our leadership, sometimes we adjust a couch just a little bit to make it fit better, or we adjust things, add an addition because we're getting better and better as a leader. And then the E is empower others. And that's the windows and doors of your leadership house, where people see into your leadership and want to participate and want to be influenced by you and be in your leadership house and be a part of that. So the mindsets I work on is all four of those. That's the cycle that I work with people on. Get that self-awareness done, grow that accountability, and inevitably you get growth. Because if you're more self-aware and you have good accountability, you're going to grow. And if you're growing, you need other people to help you sustain that growth. And then what happens after that? Your leadership shifts and you got to become self-aware, more self-aware about how things have shifted. And then the cycle continues. So that's the framework, the 35,000 foot view, as you say.
Yeah, I like that. And also, I'm thinking of my house is, I guess, 16 years old, 17, something like that, and it needs new roofing. and I noticed the counters, the varnish around the counter is showing its age. So there's a maintenance portion of the home model as well, right?
Yep. And you got to be aware of that. You got to be self-aware of that and then willing to put the work in, which is accountability side. So yeah, that metaphor came to me, I think, in the middle of the night, as a lot of great, brilliant ideas do.
Yeah.
So
It's good you remembered it, because I've had a whole bunch of times where I was going to change the world with these great ideas,
right.
but I didn't write it. And I got them in the middle of the night and didn't write them down. I woke up in the morning going, like, for the start of I had this really good idea. I can't remember what it was. So the fact that you remembered it, that's brilliant.
Yeah, well, when you wake up as many times in the middle of the night as I do, a lot of things spin through my head. So I got my phone right there. Type that sucker in.
Oh, there you go. Type it in your phone. See, there's a hack, a tip, a workaround to make it. That's brilliant. So how did you shift from personal development training into business coaching?
Yeah, I worked at a church for 2.5 years as the HR director there, and it was a big mega church, 100 employees, 3,000+ attendees, and I got exposed to the DISC framework in the process. They wanted a development framework for the employees, and so I did a bunch of research and found that one, and I liked it, and I got certified in it and started doing assessments, and it turned out that I'm pretty good at them. Not just reading the results, of course, but actually interpreting what they mean. And so I did 100 assessments and did 100 hours worth of results review with each of the employees. Each employee got an hour with me. And so I got this blitz of opportunity to learn how to do that well and learn other people's personalities and learn the assessments. And then I went, wait a second, I could do workshops. And so I did a couple workshops within the church with the departments. And then I started to moonlight, as they say. And my first moonlight was was a petroleum engineering business. And I knew the president, and I asked if I could do it. And it was, low price. So for him, it was a no-brainer. It was easy to do. I did the one-on-ones, and those went great. And then I did a workshop. And the workshop was 7 people, if I remember correctly. 3 were in a room, and 3 were on the phone, and 1 was on a video. And it was a mess. That's not the way to run a workshop. Right. So I just remember, first of all, I got there and I was incredibly nervous. And then my computer wouldn't correctly connect to the screen. And by the time we got started, I was 10 minutes late. And 15 minutes in, I'd had maybe 2 people say something to me as I was asking questions. I was sweating and trying to casually wipe the sweat off my brow. And then finally, the admin lady that was in the room rescued me and started to have something to say, because the president was trying to step aside and not take over the conversation. It ended up turning out okay. But I remember walking out and talking to him, and he said, good job. I'm glad that you did that. And I got in my car. I'm like, that was a freaking disaster. But I was like, they still got something out of it, because they did, because there was some good conversation that came out of it. And I thought, if I was that terrible, yet people still got something out of it, there's a lot of room for improvement. So there's something to this thing. So I ended up parting ways with the church and getting a John Maxwell certification and going more and more into workshops and personal training or personal coaching.
Cool. So I'm a big fan of what you're talking about. That's part of everything I do. With strategic alliances, whether they're clients or not, if they could be somebody refer me, I will comp them a DISC assessment and a review. And in that conversation, they've turned themselves into clients. And that wasn't my intent. My intent was to demonstrate some of the tools we have as coaches so that they would feel comfortable to stick their neck out further, to not just put me, because they know me already, but what do I bring to the table these days? And so when they got a taste of that, they introduced me to people. What's interesting about what you said there is Brian Tracy, who I'm affiliated with, he says the top 10% were once the bottom 10%. And that's true. That's you as well. But T. R. Becker has a much more impactful way of describing it in a shorter way. Every master was once a disaster. So you were once a disaster, stuck to that.
Yep.
Saw that there were some good things that came out of that, even though you felt like when you got your car, man, that sucks. But the thing that you stepped in and showed up and delivered it, and as a result of that, allowed you to take the steps to the next part. So that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
and now doing a workshop like that is easy. I mean, it's just fun. Now it's about the audience versus my worries and nerves about it. Now it's about, okay, what do they need? Let me read their body language. Let me read what's going on with them in the moment and adjust and react so that they can get the most and the best out of it. But 5 years ago, nope, I couldn't do that.
We have a Facebook user here. I have no idea who you are, but I want to recognize you for being here. Thank you, Facebook user. If you could go into StreamYard and give them permission to use your name, then we can know who you are. Or if you want to type your name in the chat, then I can acknowledge you. But thanks for being here. Oh, it's Eric Bam. I know who he is. He's a pizza guy. Well, he doesn't make pizzas, but he helps get pizzas to your home from his customers so they're crispy in the box, not soggy. That's his passion.
Nice.
He's everything pizza. And among other things, he actually put together a group called the Megaminds way back when the pandemic was happening. And he allowed me to be part of that group. So I'm stoked about that he's here. But StreamYard just didn't recognize him. So there you go. I find, and I don't know about you, but I'm going back to DISC for a little bit. What I find is when I do it, because one of the areas I work with is leaders and business owners, entrepreneurs, but also sellers, the salespeople. And I stole that. Pardon me. We don't steal anything. We leverage it. So I leverage the name sellers as opposed to salespeople or salespersons. And I got that from a client of mine. One of the VPs calls all of his team sellers because that's what they are. So I love that name. So the sellers I get to work with, we start with that, is to get in touch with who they are, what DISC is all about, so they get to know themselves. But more importantly, I have this card that I created, and on the top of it, it says adaptability. And the adaptability part comes from DISC. So once you know who you are and how you show up and the style that you have for communicating, you actually build rapport and trust with others. And when we've done that, showing up and being a service to somebody is a lot easier, because the other part of that card says no one cares about you until they know how much you care about them. So building that rapport and developing the trust is massive to have change happen. And as a result of doing that, my clients that are doing this, because not everybody, they take the training, but they don't drink the Kool-Aid, or they don't all apply it. But the ones that do apply it have massive results. Do you find that DISC has helped your clients do the same thing? Or if maybe you've got a story, you can leave them nameless if you like, but if maybe there's a message here you'd like to share with the audience around DISC.
Yeah, I love DISC. Every one of my clients takes it as part of the intake process, so that I call it a cheat, or a kind of that quick way to get to know my client, to get to know their personality, and then know what they don't know about their personality, or what they don't know about how gifted they are, because everybody is. I also have them take what's called a motivators assessment as well.
Mm-hmm.
If DISC is behaviors or habits, then motivators is thinking patterns, and put them together, and you've got these 15 data points that are just amazing, that unlocks things. But I remember working with this lady that works at a casino, and she did the sales side of things. She was a seller, as you say, and she brought in people for events, and she was working with a monster mega company based in California, and it starts with a G. And that company wanted to host an event at the casino. Mm-hmm. And so there was a bunch of people that they were reaching out to see if they could host it at other casinos or other locations. And so she was in kind of a bidding war. And we had just wrapped up her DISC assessment and having conversations about it and breaking it down. And so I was talking to her about how you can discover people's styles in their emails, just the way that they communicate, how brief they are, how detailed they are, or how much emotions are in them. And so she quickly figured out that he was a D style. And so she, as a SC, adjusted her communication style via email to a D style, and then also on the phone. So she started that communication with the D style person as a D style herself. He started to communicate with her, and then her phone conversations leaned more. She adapted towards him in that way. And ultimately, she won the $500,000 contract. So big deal. After one conversation with me, now she didn't get $500,000, of course. It, goes to the casino and she gets commission. But The guy told her that he really appreciated the way that she communicated with him. And so he recognized that. And so now I know that shift she made is directly related to the winning of that project or that
Yeah,
event.
totally.
So really cool.
Yeah.
And there's other ways, of course, with hiring and whatnot, but that's the one that I always think of the big success.
Yeah, I love that story. I'm going to leverage it in my own narrative around examples where this shows up. But I've had similar sort of things. I tend to call it, rather than personality, behavioral style. So it's a behavioral assessment. So it assesses how we show up and why that's important versus personality. You can have an introvert who's very flamboyant with their fashion, could wear a very purple hat and a yellow jacket. That's personality. But they could be really quiet and reserved. That's their behavioral communication style. So what was introduced to me by a coach I hired, 13 years ago, was this. So I'll share it with you because you're a DIS fan. And it's a dashboard. Have you seen that before?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah. So Scott was the one who created that. So I use it all the time. And to help people understand, instead of getting buried with all of the data, because we don't know it yet. And so to get them to use it right away, I get them to use the dashboard, pace and temperature. They open, guarded, faster, slow. And that's what you just described. So to anybody who's not DISC savvy, D is one of the labels. They're direct. They're kind of like, one of your former presidents. He would be a D, very, very fast paced, very domineering, very, it's his way or the highway kind of thing.
A Darth Vader.
Yes, a very good one. The Darth Vader, that's a better one. So a Darth Vader approach versus somebody who is more analytical, data-centric, and task-oriented. That would be, who would you label that as?
Is it R2D2 in Star Wars? That's the golden robot. Who's the golden robot that's super logical and deep?
Oh yeah. That's a really good one. That is hard. What's a little robot that scoots around?
I think that one's R2D2, and then the gold one is something else. The Star Wars fans are going to be pissed at us right now.
Oh, they are, but that's okay. Maybe they'll send in the answers, and we'll both learn from them.
Right.
I have a buddy who's a Star Wars nut. I'm going to get him to tell us who they are, but I like that. I'm going to do that. Anyway, it's the pace and openness. So a D would be high, and then what she did is she got into stride with him, built rapport, and as a result of that, the trust in her became so much quicker.
Yeah. Right? Can I share two questions that I?
Yes, please go ahead.
So when I'm working with people with DISC, I break down the profile, but there's a question that I give them, two questions really, and it's I am the center of my universe. You are the center of your universe. You have glasses welded onto your face, figuratively speaking, that you cannot remove, and so we only see the world through our eyes. And you know that. I think everybody knows that, but if we acknowledge it, it helps a little bit. So I only see the world through my eyes, which means when I see someone else asking this question, compared to me, is this person faster paced, or slower paced than me, right? Is this person faster paced or slower paced than me? And then when you get that answer, then you make a slight adaptation towards their pace. So if I'm already fast and they're fast, if they're a little bit faster, then I speed up just a little. You don't have to match. It's not even about matching. It's about acknowledging the difference and then moving a little bit in that direction. And they'll unconsciously see that. Some people will actually be observant enough to notice it, but usually it's an unconscious thing, and they'll notice and appreciate that. And the other question is, compared to me, is this person more task-oriented or more people-oriented? And if they're more people-oriented, then you're a little bit more open, a little bit more emotional in your communication. If they're more task-oriented, you're just slightly more task-oriented. And those slight adjustments can make a huge difference. And you don't need to have someone take an assessment to know those answers. It's just a 30-second observation. Like, you could watch someone walk in a door and know what their style is, and by the pace in which they walk or the pace in which they talk or gesture. I'm an I style, so I gesture and talk like crazy.
No way.
And so that can be really helpful in interviews. It can be really helpful for sellers. It can be helpful, obviously, in a myriad of contexts.
Oh, absolutely. It helps at home.
Yes.
It's amazing, right? So I think, I was hesitant about the title I had for today's show, but I think we actually unconsciously nailed it because we're making a purposeful impact talking about this today, and we didn't premeditate, pre-plan, other than that we're going to meet and have a conversation, but there was no pre-question form that we were going to deal with or address. And I think that your wisdom for blue collars and blue shirt workers make a purposeful impact. And
Yep.
I think you shared a bunch of stuff with us today. And it's really, well, we do say helping small business, but it can help anywhere. Like we just said, at home, it can be in large corporations. One of my clients is a large corporate client, but they have people and they all have different, like you say, different ways they show up. You reminded me of something that one of my mentors shared and I use in my own world. And as we act not in accordance as the truth is, but how we perceive it to be. So those are the glasses you're talking about. We see everything with our own scotomas, which is Greek for blind spots, where we have our way we've been brought up, we have our belief systems, and all of that happens at the unconscious. If you look at the iceberg, all of that's underneath the water. We don't even see that part. Nobody sees that part. All they see and all we pay attention to is the conscious part above the water.
There's a saying that I recently learned that the meaning of communication is in the response that you get. The meaning of communication is in the response that you get.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that.
Yeah, and I wish I could take credit for it, but that I think if business owners and employees and coworkers could slow down just a little bit and recognize that it's only in the response that you get what you know was communicated, and that works in the home, that works in so many different places. It works everywhere, of course.
It probably works with every day that ends in Y, and it probably works with anybody who's breathing.
I think you got it.
I want to share some information about where people can find out more about you. So just bear with me as I bring that up. Let's try this button right here. So this is your LinkedIn site, which is really hard to read. So I'm going to make it easier. That's no fault of yours. It's the system I'm on. There we go. LinkedIn. Right there, if you wanted to get to know more about Kyle, you can go to his LinkedIn profile, look for that, or go search Kyle Gillette on LinkedIn, and you'll find him there as well.
Yeah, if people want to connect with me on Facebook as well, they can look up my group. It's Blue Shirt Business Community. If they go there, there's a community of blue collar and other business owners that are working together, collaborating together. It's not one of those sites where you post your business link and then hope people click on it. We don't do that. We actually are communicating, having weekly networking call, that kind of stuff. So
there's Carla. She's
hey, Carla.
She works with me. She helps put some of the content that I create through these shows on other platforms and in podcasts. Awesome. So it's nice to see that she's here. She's watching us from the LinkedIn world. So she loved what you were talking about there.
Thanks, Carla.
Is there one more? I mean, you've given a bunch of nuggets already, but is there one last nugget you would like to share with our audience before we say see you later?
Yeah, I was working with a GM of a landscape and handyman company, and we were actually in a quarterly meeting. I was talking to all three of the main folks, and he was frustrated with all the phone calls he was getting from his landscape guys and all the questions that he was getting, and didn't know what to do with it. He was always providing answers, but he felt kind of weird about it because his background is being a chef, actually, versus running a landscape business. And so he felt a little bit uncomfortable. And so he asked me, what should I do about it? So I asked him a couple of questions because I'm a coach. And then he gave me some answers. And from it, I realized that what he needs to do is ask them more questions. And so I gave him a 4-word question. I said, what I want you to do is next time someone calls you or someone comes up to you and they're struggling with something, ask them, what do you think? 4 words. That's it. And then shut up. I told him that. I said, say these 4 words and then shut up and listen. And when they're done talking, ask them again. Well, what else do you think? And then ask them again until they finally come up with the answer. And if they're really stuck, then maybe you can have some input. And so he did that the next week, and they had their best financial week ever in that department. And also he got almost no calls from the guys. They were just solving problems themselves because he started to ask that question. And I didn't expect that result. That's awesome. But I think you can get results that are similar to that if you consistently ask that question. So I would encourage people to ask, what do you think of your employees when they come to you? Instead of providing a solution, help them to unlock their unconscious mind, because that's what you're doing when you ask that question.
Absolutely.
And
That's
that's the
sound
best
advice
part.
for anybody. So I much appreciate that. And what you've given an example to is when you empower your team, you turn the power on in them and their creative juices. You don't have to be a problem solver because you've created a whole team of problem solvers with accountability, and they're feeling better about themselves. And one of the things I'm a big fan of is we can help people feel happier at work and also feel happier at home. Their whole life is going to be better off. So great nugget, the way to end the show. I couldn't have done any better. That's brilliant. Again, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. I really enjoyed it.
We'll talk to you soon. Wasn't that great? We did. He over delivered on making a purposeful impact. There was a number of nuggets in there that you could take and implement. Asking questions, figuring out what your disc style is, paying attention, and that last question: what do you think? Well, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? Anyway, let's wrap this up with the last thing I like to do, and then you can tell me what you think about this. Perhaps you in wonderful is there deliberately because it represents you, because you are unique and you are wonderful. So continue acting like your wonderful self. And that brings us to the end of this episode. See you next time.
I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.